Welcome back to Small Caps. Once again, my name is Kerry Stevenson. And, I often say to you guys, sit up, take notice, because this is something I really want you to understand. Well, now I really want you to sit up. I've got my friend Tolga Kumova with me. He's the executive chairman of Aston Minerals. The ASX code is ASO. The reason I brought Tolga on today is because they made an announcement about a project in Canada. And I think this has flown under the radar. Well, clearly it has, because they've only announced it today, 19th of January. However, I've never known Tolga to be quite as excited as he is about this. Now, those of you that have followed Aston Minerals will say, hang on a minute, scratch my head, thought that was a gold project. We'll talk about the gold project, but I really want to start off by asking Tolga to just outline what's going on with this nickel at the moment. So, Tolga, great to see you, my friend. Welcome to Small Caps.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's exciting times. It's great to see you again.
Well, it's good to see. Well, yeah, COVID hasn't made it very easy at all for any of us, but hopefully one day I'll get to see you in the flesh again. But in the meantime, because this is the first time that you've been on Small Caps, so let's start with who are Aston Minerals, and then I want to get into today's announcement, which is pretty significant.
Give you a little bit of background. So Aston was a little company called European Cobalt, who had a Slovakian cobalt asset in a place called Dobšina. We acquired the asset quite a number of years ago now. I think in 2017, we were looking for cobalt. We were drilling for it. We found some. It wasn't as high grade as we wanted it to be, but that wasn't the biggest issue. The issue was the cobalt price fell from like $90,000 down to $10,000, $15,000, and that was we just decided to preserve our cash and look for the next project. Okay. So in June 2020, we acquired the Edleston gold project with a gentleman by the name of Dale Gin, who's the managing director.
Now just to let my audience know, this is up in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. The Edleston Gold Project is, I think it's Ontario, isn't it?
Yeah, Ontario, Canada. So in terms of its jurisdiction, it's just south of a place called Timmins, and Timmins has about 90 million ounces of production. The project is about 45, 50 or 60 k's south of Timmins. To the east of our deposit, there's a project called Cote, which is 18 million ounces at 0.8 grams, owned by IM Gold and Sumitomo. If you go east of us by about 80 to 100 kilometres, there's Macassa, which is owned by Kirkland Lake, and I think it produces 400,000 or 500,000 ounces a year. And like along that entire belt, there's 20 and 40 million ounce deposits spread all over it. The other thing that's interesting is to the south by about 150, 200 kilometres is a area called Sudbury. Now, why this is interesting, Sudbury effectively produced 50% of the world's nickel for like 100 years.
Oh, wow.
It's a major nickel province. So to find what we think we've found where we are right now is a little surreal, but it also kind of makes sense because there are these types of deposits in this region.
Okay, so just to be clear, the project was acquired in June 2020. You did a name change in December 2020 to Aston Minerals. As I said earlier, ASX code is ASO. This announcement today is about one of the, because you've only drilled, I think, 10 holes.
Yep.
You've only got results for 2, but you're getting pretty excited about this. So what I want to know is what's the announcement about, and why is it put such a big smile on your face?
Okay, so to give you a little bit of background, we were originally drilling for gold.
Yeah.
Up north in the northern part of our license, and drilling along is what we call Edleston Main. And Edleston Main, which is the reason why we originally acquired the asset, Dale Gin, who originally brought the project to me, he pointed out there was a hole there that he drilled, was 5 metres at like 83 grams from 110 metres. And I'm like, okay,
83 grams, not 8.3, 83.
83, yeah, 83. It's real high grade. And then they stepped back from there 100 metres back and drilled a hole under it and got, I think it was like 3 metres at 52. And these are historical numbers, so I can talk about them. Then we drilled, I think, 300 metres to the east of that and hit a metre at 2 kilos at about 350 metres deep. No, it was like the best hit. I think one of the best hits, gold hits in 2021. We've also drilled to the west of it. And those are the holes. I think we've drilled like 30 or 40 holes there. So we've been waiting with the labs, and it's been really difficult and uncomfortable waiting for them to come through. But we think we're finally there. There's a whole bunch of historical data as well that Dale drilled. So all that's being compiled and validated and put out. And at some point over the next couple of weeks, we'll put all that information out to market as well. So it's not like the gold story went away. The gold story is definitely still there. It's just that whilst we were drilling the gold, guys are looking at these sulfides and thinking in the core, wondering, okay, this doesn't look like gold-bearing sulfides, and they've decided to XRF it, and it was interesting that came up with nickel values. So this pricked our interest. Went back and did more of a deep dive on the historical information on the region. Went back and found a report by a company called Mustang Resources.
Oh, my goodness, yep.
Yep, and Mustang Resources had a geophysicist, a geologist do a massive report on this jurisdiction, literally on our deposit and on our tenements. And they basically said, if you put a hole here and you hit it, you've potentially got something that looks like Mount Keith. But they just didn't drill the hole.
Now, for those of you out there that go, well, what's Mount Keith? That's a BHP massive, massive project.
Yeah, so BHP, Mount Keith's been producing for 50 or 60 years.
Yeah.
It's at the moment, I think it's about 230 million tonnes at 0.52 nickel. It's part of Nickel West. It's one of the biggest nickel producing assets in Australia. So we think we're getting something, and it's very, very early days, and I'll say it's early days, and we've only put a...
But this is, sorry, Tolga, to interrupt you, but this is not where you were drilling for gold. This is elsewhere, but you had a sniff and you went, okay, because how big is the tenure that you've got up in this area?
We were drilling right up the northern part of our tenement, and we mapped out this high mag feature that goes for 3.5 Ks to the southeast, and then it kinks and goes another 3.5 Ks to the southwest. We were drilling at the very bottom corner in a place what we call Bardwell. And Bardwell was basically, we only permitted one drill pad there at the time because we didn't really know what was going to come up. We knew that was going to be something, and we just didn't know what. Mm-hmm. We drilled 3 holes from that pad. We have results for, I'd say, 1 3/4 of the holes. So the first hole was hole 57, which hit, I think it was 290 metres at 0.3, which is interesting and exciting, but it's not going to set the lights out, shoot lights out. We drilled a hole underneath it to target closer to the mag high feature, and that hit, again, it had a big broad zone of nickel, but then from about, I think it was 180 metres, and this is off the top of my head, 180 metres, we hit almost 53 metres at 0.49 nickel plus cobalt. And we're waiting for the last 40 metres of that hole as well, which ends in mineralisation. We know it's all mineralised throughout it, and it ends in it. We then angled the rig, and we stopped drilling at I think it was 260 metres there. We angled the rig 5 degrees to the south. That hole went to 350 metres deep. This is the one we're announcing today, which is why I'm kind of jumping out of my skin. It's got, was it 282 metres at 0.43 nickel plus cobalt, 0.014 cobalt, all the way to end a hole. The last 164 metres is 0.52, which, if you remember Mount Keith, their deposit is 230 million tonnes at 0.52. So at their grade, plus the cobalt, so 0.14 cobalt.
Yep.
So, and that hole ends in mineralisation as well. And what's even more interesting is the last 18 metres of that hole is 0.66.
Oh, sheesh.
Nickel.
Sheesh.
Plus 0.014 cobalt there as well. So it's increasing grade at depth. It's mineralised from 280 metres, so basically most of the hole. And we're getting big, thick, wide zones of mineralisation, and we haven't got through it. So what we've
you've only really just begun. But before I go into what's coming next, because this is quite a significant announcement, but a lot of people really won't fully understand like that. But some people will say, 0.5 nickel, is that impressive? Let's, if you don't mind, I'm a gold nerd, but I also like copper. Now, copper at the moment is about $10,000 a tonne. Nickel's 22,000. So if you can just, I guess, put it down into basic words for my audience as to why those grams of nickel are actually very, very significant.
Okay, so nickel's $22,000 a tonne.
That's what I thought. I said that.
Copper's $10,000 a tonne. So effectively, nickel is double the price. So if you took a 0.52 nickel ore body and you doubled it, it would be a 1% copper hit. And if this is an intrusive body, so it's like a porphyry copper project, but it's intrusive for nickel. So if you had 163 metres at 1% copper from 180 metres, it would be, that's kind of what it is, and still mineralised. Now, that's exciting, and but that's just kind of the start of this. The mineralised structure, the true width on what the geophysics show us on this thing, and I don't know if it's going to be mineralised all the way through, so it's very early days, and we haven't got through the whole ore body. We've only got down to 350 metres. The true width on the mag interp is about 600 metres wide. It's about 1,500 metres deep and about 1 kilometre of strike on this one zone to the south.
Just give me those numbers again. So 600 metres wide.
Yep. A kilometre of strike, so a kilometre long.
Yep.
And 1,500 metres deep. And it still continues, looks like it continues on, but it's where the geophysics can only show us down to that depth. So there's going to be some serious tons if it's mineralised throughout.
So what's the next step then, Tolga? I mean, as I said at the start, I've actually not seen you quite this excited, but it's one of the things that I would say to you is, isn't it a little bit early to get excited if you've only had 10 holes and results from 2? I mean, because couldn't this be a false flag potentially?
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible, right? It's geology, it's Mother Nature. This is why we do this. But when we find something like this and the geology looks as uniform as this does, and one of the things that we've done to give people comfort is if you look at the appendix of the announcement, we actually give every single sample assay analysis. So you can see for yourself. It's not like there's a really high grade zone and there's nothing. It's kind of uniform throughout the 163 metres and increasing at depth. You can see the last sort of 10, 15, 20 metres. You can see the grades starting to kick up there as well. So that's kind of what gives us comfort. But the more important thing is the geophysical structure. Everywhere we've drilled so far, we've been able to see the nickel sulfides from the pentlandite throughout it. So it's not like we're hoping that it's going to be uniform and it's going to be there. It is early days. We've only drilled to 350 metres. This thing looks like it goes to the bowels of the earth at 1,500 metres. So the next step for us is a couple. One, on this Bardwell area that we're drilling right now, we're going to have 2 rigs on there. We're bringing bigger rigs. We're using 4 rigs before, so we're bringing bigger rigs in to actually drill those deep holes and chase this thing down and see what it does in terms of grade. Again, I was saying the last 20 metres is 0.66 plus cobalt. So, it's starting to get interesting, even more interesting than it is. But the plan is to now pattern drill that area, 100 metre spacing. Okay. So now we're next week we'll have permits to actually do that. Instead of just using the one panded angling down, we're going to get a proper true width, and who knows what the true width is actually going to be. Looks like it's 600 metres because of geophysics, but again, Mother Nature. Yep. But it's exciting because if we do hit these at that depth and we do a strike of 1 kilometre and it does extend to that true width, it's going to be a seriously significant deposit. And
so this unique it's unique, and it's at scale. And I think that's the important thing for people to understand, that although it's early days, this could be unlocking a district. And I wonder if you would just share with us, why hasn't anyone else stumbled across this?
There were holes drilled in the 1960s, which,
wow.
Yeah, we discovered in the 1960s, but they drilled off the edge of the mag high feature. They didn't go into this actual, 600 metre. They literally, all the holes we've seen have clipped the edges of it. So that's probably kind of luck, I'd say. And it's undercover. There's about 30 or 40 metres of cover. So the old timers wouldn't have been able to walk over it and pick it up by seeing it. And it is amazing. There was one record of an outcrop that the government body in Ontario had discovered. And that was just one outcrop. And we tried to find that outcrop, and it was difficult, but they had some assays and a decent nickel grades there at surface, but it was it's old. So we couldn't rely on it, and we couldn't find it ourselves. So that's the main reason why. But one of the key aspects, and this is what I want people to take away from this, is a couple of things I want to take away. Number one, BHP is producing from this at 0.52 nickel, their 230 million tonne resource in WA, paying 25 cents a kilowatt hour. In Ontario, where we are, it's all hydro, and it's going to be a fraction of the cost of the electricity they're paying out in WA. If it was somewhere between 5 and 7 cents a kilowatt hour compared to 25, the biggest cost of a mining operation is energy. Energy,
absolutely.
So that's one key takeaway that I want people to take. We're going to be pattern drilling this thing, and we're going to be chasing it down hundreds of metres, and we haven't been able to drill through it yet. So that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Even as it is, it seems like it's going to be hopefully a decent sized resource. The other thing to keep in mind is we're drilling a hole 3 kilometres north of the one we just announced today, along the same structure, at what we call the elbow. And the drill hole is designed for 1,200 metres. We drilled it to 730 metres pre-Christmas. We sent that in for assays. So the 730, the hole's still continuing being drilled to its final depth, and it's going to be this big, wide structure. And that hole's in the labs right now getting assayed. So it's going to be interesting to see what that does. And that's, again, almost from surface as well. So, yeah.
Breathe. All right. I've got a couple more questions for you, Tolga, because I know it's a very exciting day for you and your phone's been going crazy. But 2 things I want to find out. Where to next? I know you're going to drill. You've got some assay results coming back. You've got your permits done. You're bringing on an extra rig. You're going to be drilling. So there's going to be a lot of news flow coming out. That's on the nickel side of things, which has really got a lot of attention. What are you doing with the gold? Is there still some drilling going on there? Are you still waiting on assay results? Because I think it's important for people to remember that the gold hasn't gone away. It's almost like, tick, this is just it's another Christmas present.
Yeah, well, it is literally a Christmas present. So in terms of the gold, what we're going to be doing is probably over the next week or 2, we'll compile all the information that we have so far in Edleston, Maine, and come out with that. There's we've drilled quite a number of holes in a project area called Sorolla, which we announced late last year. That I think not all the holes, but quite a number of the holes are hitting visible gold. So we're waiting for a couple more of those holes to come back from the labs. And the labs are actually turning stuff over now, so it's not going to take too long for that as well. But we'll come out probably on a report on everything we have at Edleston, and people can quite quickly understand what that means. And it's, when you're getting grades at 5 metres at 80 in different areas and on the footwall and hanging wall, and it's going to be interesting there as well. But that's probably over the next couple of weeks we'll announce those. Hole 75, which is the one I just spoke about.
Yep.
Is going to be really exciting. And I'm assuming that'll take a couple of weeks. And the labs are actually turning things over now. So we're getting turnaround. So it's starting to get exciting for us after we've drilled a hole to actually find out what we've got. So that's the key. And the keys for us is to, like with every exploration company that's onto something, we're looking to get resources. I don't know if they're going to look like, because it's early days. but that's the plan.
Okay, so lots of news results coming forward, and come back when you get some of those results. Let's do a quick update for people as you get those results coming in. I think that's really important to keep that news flow coming for our audience. But would you consider further down the track, if this nickel project is a thumping big resource and you compare it potentially, and look, as I said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, it's early days at the moment, but would you consider further down the track potentially doing a spin-off of the nickel assets?
It's going to be a tough one because the nickel and the gold, I won't say they're together, but they look like they coincide. We haven't completely done enough work to understand the geometry of the gold and where it sits and ends.
Okay.
But the nickel is, and we've shown it on our releases, it actually looks like it goes through the gold deposit. So
wow.
It's an extensive nickel deposit. It's gonna be
okay. We are running out of time. We're running out of time, but one of the things I just want to ask you very quickly as well. First of all, I think the cost of energy, people need to actually remember that, because as we're going into this sort of green, lean, environmental sustainability, ESG, that, ladies and gentlemen, energy is one of the highest costs for a mining operation. Make sure you remember that. 3 reasons why investors should be sitting up and taking notice of Aston right now.
3 reasons why. It looks like it's going to be a very large, prominent nickel cobalt deposit in Ontario, Canada, which is a first world jurisdiction. Where we are, it's all hydro, so clean energy, clean power, low cost energy, which is the largest cost for a mining operation. What we've hit so far, it's 163 metres at 0.52. It is comparable, plus cobalt, comparable to Mount Keith, which has been operating for 60 years. It's probably one of the largest nickel producers in Australia for BHP. Just a different, lower cost energy environment in Canada. So they're the key points. In terms of the excitement, we're drilling holes and we've only got the results for 2. We've already drilled 10. So it's going to be like from now on, it'll be constant news flow, especially on the nickel, where we're chasing this thing along strike and at depth. So it's which looks like it's going to be it's quite uniform from what we've seen so far. But again, Mother Nature, it's out of our hands, but it will I'm not going to die wondering.
But it's put a big smile on your face today. It's a pretty exciting announcement for you. Congratulations on, I don't know whether you stumble across these things or you just get clever, get lucky, whatever it is.
I'd rather be lucky than smart.
Exactly. And I think it's put Aston Minerals, it's certainly put it on the radar for our audience out there, our small caps audience. Thank you, Tolga, for joining me today, because I know it's a busy day for you. I'll let you keep going with all these calls, and make sure you come back in the weeks to come as you get that news flow coming through.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks, everybody, for listening.